Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing. Registration granted by SEBI, membership of BASL and certification from NASM in no way guarantee performance of the intermediary or provide any assurance of returns to investors.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Quit podcast. So we recently did a large podcast, almost a 45 minute podcast with Mr. Sunil Subramaniam, where we announced his joining Dyoda Solutions as a strategic advisor to the organization, and keeping the same spirit ahead. We wanted to bring in many more industry experts and people from varied backgrounds to explain investing as a subject. A, from their perspective, and B, try and understand where things match, where things can be corrected, not just for you as investors, but also for us as advisors. So in that spirit, today we have on board Ms. Parvatha Vardhini, and she is part of our podcast today. And I hope, with God's grace, if we can do this like a series, because I have tremendous respect for Vardhini. She is very comfortable if I'm calling her Vardhini, so I'm going to call her Vardhini. So I have tremendous respect for her because she used to write for Business Line, and she also used to head one of the product divisions for Business Line. And she is one of the senior journalists, has a knack for numbers, and that comes from her background. She is a chartered accountant, and she is a member of ICAI. Which kind of gives her a lot more weight. Not that she doesn't carry it on her own, but she comes with that background of understanding numbers, understanding markets, and is a keen analyst. So she rose the ranks at BL Business Line, and she's been there. She was there for almost 17 years now. Of course, she's taken a break, and she is trying to consider a lot of options. In the last meeting, we kind of zeroed into two points. So hopefully she will make a choice soon. Welcome, Vardhini. I'm very, very glad you could make time for this. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've known you for quite some time, and it's taken quite a while to get this podcast
Yes.
put it together, I guess. So I'm happy to be joining you today, and would love to share some insight to the benefit of your viewers and your clients. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, what we are trying to do at this point of time in this call, folks, is that we are trying to understand the set of common mistakes that people tend to make when they embark or continue on their personal finance stroke investing journey. So, while we have done an episode very similar to this in the past, the participants in that episode were me and Kaushik. So, it's always a very potentially biased view. So we wanted to, kind of retouch this topic, because what we get from an industry expert who is actually not from the industry, but a critique of the industry, and a person who understands the industry from outside in. So it's always important to get multiple views. That way, all of us will end up learning. So that is the topic we chose to discuss today. And Vardhini, your opening statements, please.
See, I've been writing on mutual funds for more than 10 years out of my 17 years in Business Line. So a lot of, reader interactions, a lot of industry interactions have all happened in this period. So I kind of, readers used to write into us and then ask us their queries and clarifications. And in the process, a lot of practical details on how investors go about it's kind of behavioral finance, but we don't use those kind of terms to explain it, but rather in very simple words, you see the common pitfalls and the common mistakes that investors they don't even know. Unknowingly, you may be a very wise investor, but unknowingly, you would be doing certain things. It's not that you're not informed, you're not an informed investor. So I had come across a lot of this. And, I thought putting it all together, see, across the years, over a period of time, I would have written about it somewhere or the other. And then I tried to also compile it at one point into articles. So I thought, this kind of practical exposure to both sides, industry side and investor sides. Since I have practical exposure, I thought it would be very good if I could, pass it on to people who could benefit from it. So, yeah, that's how.
Wonderful. So we'll probably try and, kind of, I think you should, having written about this for more than 10 years, I think you should compare it as a book, if possible. So we want wonderful idea. Which behavior? Right? Let's stick to that as a topic, because I also love behavioral finance, because I know of people who work in multinational banks whose portfolio, 60% of their portfolio will be in FDs, right? And this is like multinational banks. So it is not because they don't know about equities. It is not because they don't know about funds. It is more it's behavior issue. Either it's an Indian middle class, I have now moved into an MNC bank kind of a scenario, or normally it's like, no, they're told me to do this kind of a thing, right? It could be anything. Which do you think would be the biggest pitfall or biggest that you have seen? Would be what?
Yeah. So what you say is definitely right. People's disposable income over the years have definitely gone up, but proportionately, are they doing an asset allocation to debt, equity, gold? That is the question, definitely, what you say. That is probably one of the very obvious things. Investors don't yet come into the equity markets or into mutual funds as the category. That is one of the mistakes. But, from dealing with, post-COVID especially, we see from all numbers that the SIP number of SIP accounts have increased. The SIP book per se for the industry has increased. So everything has shown a lot of penetration in terms of knowledge of mutual funds and interest in investing in mutual funds. So I would probably, get into people who have already begun investing and what are they doing, that kind of scenario. One is. So, what I have seen is that you don't have a plan when you start investing. It's very random. So, okay, I have an advisor. Okay, I'm reading everything that is coming online. And I know A, B, C, D funds are good. One of the apps is telling me these funds are good. And they have a short list. They have the money. They have the money, definitely. And they have the short list from all sources possible. You have media, you have, free advice. Sometimes you have paid advice also, like in terms of risk analysts. So you kind of have a short list and you start thinking, then you don't plan. So I come across people who say, I looked up here, there, ABC funds were good. I started. Now I wanted, I started last month. I'm thinking I will make so much percentage return in 1 year. I want it for this spending 1 year later. So they are, my son is going to college or the random expenses, they kind of think fast returns will mimic, it will come in the next 1 year. Then try to. So this is a very random allocation, random aim, random investing. It may work. When a market is doing very well, whatever you do will work. But you don't feel the lack of systematic planning. But where you will probably feel the lack of systematic planning or a lack of pinch. For example, this what we have seen in the markets itself from September 24 to now. So nothing much happened. It went down 15% and at its low, and then it is up another 5%. But somewhere, you picked out last September and nothing has happened. No, this scenario can exist in the market for many years put together. A lot of investors haven't seen that. So where your systematic, a systematic investment plan. That's
Absolutely. No, see, let's just take 2000 to now, okay? We had all in 2000. We are all after that 8 years later.
Yeah.
Right? And after that, again, there was like a big lull, right?
Yeah.
Now, 2020, we had a fall.
Yeah.
Now we have 2024, which is reasonable, right? 2020, let's not even consider that. I mean, I think it's an anomaly in my view. I don't know what most people think. COVID was an anomaly, right? So my challenge is this random product choice, right, is a problem, right? I view, in fact, I was just speaking to one intern here. Like, I was just telling him that, the product to choose the investor. Investor should not choose the product, right? Because, see, my favorite example on that is, ivermectin, which was, which was ordered during COVID. It's a great tablet. Doesn't mean that we all pop one today, right?
Yeah.
Right? Just because a product was doing great, 4 years before or for the last 4 years, doesn't mean it's going to do good for years, right? Unless and until you have COVID, or ivermectin can be for multiple other reasons. I don't know what even for. Unless you have one of those problems, that product is not great for you, right?
Yeah.
So just because, hey, this Falana small cap fund or Falana sectoral fund did great, my friend made 30% at it. It's like, it's a ridiculous. So as you said, people don't have a systematic plan for their SIP. And koi SIP, Sarmaroga Nivarani, it's going to. Yeah, it's a very, very common issue. So, I keep saying that asset allocation is the first step of your investing journey. And if asset allocation does not happen, right, then whatever we do is prayers. Yeah, and another point that that keeps coming to me is I have an SIP, but I have it for, you just mentioned it, I have it for a 1 year window. I mean, investing for a 1 year. I mean, how does it even work? I mean, why?
Correct. Especially when the market is doing well, people tend to have very short-term horizons. They think, as you mentioned, sectoral funds, especially the urge to make money quickly in 1 year to meet the next year's need is so high when the market is doing very well. So that is also a factor. Numbers are better now. For example, AMFI's latest data says 61 or 62, 63% of retail investors hold beyond 2 years. This number was much below a few years earlier and all that. It is bettering. But I would even say that 2 years is not a criteria in that classification at all. You should say 5 years, 7 years and say how many retail investors are holding, because for any equity, especially active fund investing, 5 years, 7 years is the timeline for which any investor should plan his outflows or his or her outflows, and also the goals. If you have goals for next year or year after, you cannot be in the stock markets at all, actually. So this is also, another factor. I think some people actually, I don't know. See, there are two views here. One thing is whether they are moving from one fund to another. That is one question. The other question is whether, you do sits for 2 years in one fund and then you shut it and then you move to another one. Okay, you're continuing in another fund which you think it's better. Okay, so it's somewhat better than just stopping after 2 years. So that horizon is also something people say.
Would actually say that that is a possibility. See, now even MFU for that matter, they're if someone is going to stop an SIP, right? There is a forced question which asks, why are you stopping this SIP? Questions given are multiple. Like, I will be starting in a few months, I am cheap bank mandate, or I am investing in other funds, right? But my SIP of, let's say, 1 lakh or 10,000 or 50,000, that stays.
Yeah.
I am stopping it in this fund. I want to do it in some other fund. Which is absolutely fine. So the whole SIPs may still be happening. So in as much as that is a possibility, this data, we will know this data's efficacy maybe in a year or so. So what you are saying at this point of time, it's also a function of whatever gone into a particular fund, is it getting redeemed or not?
Yeah.
So if it is getting redeemed, then absolutely what you're saying is pakka. It's not to be done at all, right? I would actually say that, I was actually speaking to an Australian fund manager many years ago. He said in Australia, long term is 7 years and above. Medium term is 4 years and above. Short term is 2 years and above, right? There was an Indian fund manager who was also there. That's it. Long term one. Tomorrow.
No, that is all. I think that is also stemming from taxation. What is a long-term capital gains if you hold for 1 year? So people mentality will also be like that. No, we should also probably not blame businesses.
So yeah, so we will have a challenge like that when it comes to equity. I mean, I go by the Warren Buffett school of thought. So my favorite holding period is forever.
Yeah.
But one of the things that he keeps saying is only when the tide goes down, we'll know who's dressing well or not, right?
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, and that is what we have been seeing in the last 4-5 months. We saw that COVID as well, but unfortunately, COVID was a demat opening spree at that point of time. Everyone went into futures options, which was leading into a different problem altogether. The other point is, we also spoke about exit, right? What do you think about exits? We talk about long term, short term, medium term in various periods. But what do you think about exit? I mean, what are your views on it?
See, exit, it is another story altogether. Now, assuming, you tell them, no, you should not have for now, have for retirement. Suppose somebody is 30 years old and you tell them, you should hold for long term. Long term is another 30. So up to 60, you should not stop or you should not do. See, that is a very good thing. But, sometimes you see people literally doing this, like exit, when the exit comes too close, they are still holding on. See, if you're in an equity fund or something, it will be like at least 3 years before the exit. If you're in a debt fund, at least 2 years or 1 year before the exit, you have to gradually, especially, you have a goal and you're nearing the goal. And, market, you cannot wait till the last day and see what you can extract, see the maximum you can extract from the market. So exit does in market linked products doesn't work like that. You also have to plan your exit well in advance so that you lock into the gains. See, the thing is, when you open your portfolio, when you see it online and all, what you see as a gain percent is only the notional gain. See, most of us, when we see our portfolios and we see a very nice gain figure, we have, again, as you said, it's a behavioral thing. It looks like as if it is in your pocket. But until you actually press the, button and redeem it, it is not in your pocket. So it doesn't mean that 1 year before your goal, you see a very good 25% CAGR return in a fund or 20% CAGR return in a fund. It doesn't mean that, another 1 year you hold and try to extract the maximum. It is time to lock in. It is also about, exit is about two things, I feel. Number one is closer to your goal. like, 3 years or even 2 years, 1 year, you do a graded exit. That is one thing. And the other thing is also the return number that you are happy about. Most people have a very little idea of what is a return number which they would like to see in their portfolio. That takes us back to your, primary thing which you said on asset allocation, which is where this comes in. What is the return number you are happy about? So if the market is doing well, and if your portfolio is showing great returns, now if your equity debt allocation is becoming lopsided, it is then you rebalance it a little bit. So exit is also about rebalancing. So at that point in time, what number is something which will satisfy you is a personal question. You could decide it yourself, or you could decide it with your advisor, or you could decide it based on how much your goal needs and how far are you towards that. So these are the 3 factors that, influence, what return you will be happy with. So exit depends on these 2 factors. I've got, yeah.
So what we end up doing is we maintain roughly a 60-40 balance, right? And typically we don't exit from equity. Okay. So in the accumulation phase, I try our best not to exit from equity. They get into the retirement and start the, withdrawal phase. That is when the withdrawal from equity begins. So give it as much time as possible. It's not set in stone that it's going to be 30 years or 15 years or whatever. Give it time. And if you give it time, as you get closer to the retirement period, we'll again do that rebalancing to try and, kind of pull out from equity, keep it in debt so that, they can take it out faster, or they can take it out without, tax calculations. So many things come to play.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. Exiting at the right time with respect to that individual, more that from a market perspective is what I would probably look at. And yeah, that is something which we try to get to, but that's again personal, which is why it's called personal finance. Great. And what are your views on one size fits all? You can have any color as long as it's black. Solution for this?
No, so this is everything. I think it speaks only from my experience as somebody who's answered reader queries over so many years. Now, there are 2-3 things here. A lot of people, it may not be a wrong idea, but it's not a great idea either. So, people assume that, if you're investing for a child, then, you should choose only children's funds. Now, there are 4-5 fund houses offering, funds, so-called children's fund with an initial lock-in, and then mostly it will be a hybrid fund or some of them are conservative hybrids, some of them are aggressive hybrids. So, these notions are there. Similarly, retirement. So, you can't blame the investor too, because sometimes when you go through an intermediary, they also get sold as, a solution for your goal or whatever. So, that is also another thing. So, retirement if there are ready-made retirement funds, then why would I go about building a portfolio? Why would somebody go about doing a research and analysis about what constitutes a good retirement portfolio? So these are all the questions that investors should ask. But unfortunately, I found that a lot of people really go by, the names of the funds. So even that way, the other one size fits all kind of approach comes in terms of choosing one fund. So for example, it's very common. So people will put out saying this particular fund is celebrating 20 years, 25 years. If you had invested on day one, on inception, in 25 years, this is the return. So it will make you feel so bad that you lost out in the last 25 years. So you say next to 25 years, let me make up. So then you choose that fund to put, a maximum portion or whatever surplus you have at that point or whatever, So These are the kinds of solutions people think of as quick fixes. But painstakingly building a portfolio according to your risk return appetite, your age, and your other, it always has its own advantages. So essentially, I feel, people should be a little more aware, whether it is reading in magazines, newspapers, or approaching one-on-one advisors, or even getting incidental advice from a good intermediary. So, so I think that is where it comes in. See, a lot of people if you see that data with respect to direct plans, so more than, advisory direct plans is only a very small portion. Self direct plans is a big chunk of the total assets under direct plans. About, 24-25 lakh crore is on his own self investing in today's industry. So these are the people who should be wary of making these kind of one size fits all decisions. So, yes.
To me, it sounds more lazy investing than anything else, right? There are reams and reams of articles and papers and everything written on why personal finance has to be given X amount of time from. If not, if you can't do it yourself, at least take the help of a an advisor. We'll try to kind of do some bit of lazy investing. See, actually, lazy investing can work. Like I used to speak of, if you're a 25-year-old and you have, let's say, 100 rupees to invest, you just do a simple 60-40, and that 60 which goes into equity, you just split it between, Nifty 50 and maybe a Nifty small cap or a Nifty mid cap, something like that, for 25 years. Or 30 years. Maybe it can work. But the thing is, can we do it for 25 years? In between, so many things happen, right? I mean, people get married, people get want to travel to, with a backpack. I want to take a sabbatical. So many things happen in life, right? So these life events, it's the karma to keep poking on, on what you want to do for a 25-year period, and that discipline goes away, right? Which is lazy investing. While lazy investing can help, can be beautiful, it doesn't work primarily because we all live an active life, right?
No, even that is where, this point also comes in. Choosing and, somebody, either you should learn it on your own or somebody should be there to tell you, as you suggest, to choose an index fund or to choose a passive fund and then let it be a broader market and a fund and not a narrow theme or a theme which doesn't have runway or, an active fund which may probably not beating the index. Even to do a lazy investing, your initial choice should be guided or okay. Then the lazy investing will work. Otherwise, it's a question, if you choose a random thing, then you still don't know, isn't it? You may make some money because essentially Indian market is a market which is going up and you don't expect it to, do very badly in the next 10, 15, 20 years. That way, something may work. But
imagine somebody putting all their money in let's say a defense fund or a defense index right now.
True.
How?
No, the thing, I was going to use this example. So, after Operation Sindoor now, everybody is behind this defense. See, being behind defense funds happened when the PSU re-rating happened about 1 or 2 years ago. That was when a lot of launches happened in the last 1 year or 1.5 years. Now the second phase of, national spirit for defense funds has come in. So, you can't do lazy investing in this and expect it to work wonders. That point is also important. So somewhere you should do some homework. That is what it is at the end of the day. That's, for anything to work. So it is like, you should work, I remember reading somewhere. So you have worked hard to earn the money. Now make your money work hard for you. Let it not, let it give you the best return. Let it not give some return.
Absolutely. I used to head marketing for Sundaram Mutual. I'm sorry, I'm taking names. It's my alma mater, so I'm taking names. And one of the lines that we had as a baseline was "Make your money work hard."
Yeah.
And then it became unearthing opportunity. We changed that over a period of time. So, but that is the primary idea, right? I mean, your money is not coming free for you. Yeah. It has to, in Tamil we say "Pathara marindu pichairu." Even to arms, you will need to know where you put it, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing it for your own future, there has to be some kind of reading that has to happen. No?
Yeah.
Sadhu, that has to happen, right? Which is precisely where people tend to kind of make a lot of logical errors. Anyway, I mean, so as I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, I was speaking with Sunil the last time. Today we have this solution on index-based investing, and I asked him a question on index-based investing, and he said, "I'm glad you will use the word passive." Okay, and then we gave fantastic reasoning. I mean, for a guy who has spent close to 2 decades as head of sales, and then the organization of actively managed fundos, he gave a fantastic explanation. He said, "See, indices are not passive. It's not like you fixed. No, 50 years before, whatever stocks were there in Sensex and Nifty are not. Probably not all of them are there. Right? I mean, so indices are active, and what you need to do is to try and understand next to go into at what point of time, and then how long you hold. So much goes into even index-based investing. So even index-based investing is not exactly passive. So I'll probably keep this as the last question for this particular podcast. Any views on index-based investing? I'm not going to call it passive anymore.
No, see, today there are a lot of we could use the word solutions in the right sense on indices itself, isn't it? So, because of SEBI's strict classification norms, all innovations after those regulations came in have happened. Predominantly, all innovations have happened on the what SEBI calls the passive sides. So, on the thematic and the passive, these are the categories where any innovation has, there has been room only in these two categories for innovations. So that way, this, what SEBI calls passive. So let me stick to it with no offense to Mr. Sunil Subramanian.
Thanks.
This is a growing market, definitely. And a lot of new indices. So number two here is to note that it gives room for a lot of new indices to come up also. And the more, the innovations that happen there, the better the choices for investors. So you could actually, previously maybe it was just a Nifty 50 or just a Nifty mid cap or something. Nowadays, even in passive, there are asset allocator funds actually. So you go for different goals. So you could as much build a passive portfolio as you were doing with active 10, 20 years ago. So that way, and you get time and again, you get a lot of data on where certain categories of active funds are lagging benchmarks or are not actually able to outdo benchmarks so greatly. So these are all things which work in favor of passive, not to mention your lower expense ratios and which will translate to better returns and things like that. So passive, definitely, like I was reading a DSP mutual fund report is dated April. So says how in the US, more than almost 60% of equity investing happens only passive. And today I think about the equity portion, but 72 in the industry. So AUM is at about, I think 12 or 14 crore, which is about 20% drop. If you take the US market as an example, India has a lot of room for still grow. Market with a long runway, and also it has innovated directly enable innovations in passives through their regulations. So the future, will be of passives, and as markets, sure, that is also another factor is there. See, as long as you have very nascent equity markets, which we did have in the 90s and in the 2000s, even until say 2010 years ago, even I would say until 2015, the first part last decade, somewhere, it was like a growing kind of a market where active managers could outperform in a huge way. Now, it was a little bit of a challenge, actually, categories, large cap and all that. So, so these are all the points in favor of passives. So if you could build a portfolio with a lot of innovations that's happening, and if you're able to get a good return, see, ultimately, what do we see in equities? We say that you need a return which will beat inflation. And, and you would probably want a risk premium for investing in equity vis-a-vis a bond return. So if you can work out a return, for say a 50 to 20% CAGR, which you would like to have in an equity portfolio, and if a passive portfolio can do that, so there is nothing like it, no, ultimately at the end of the day. So
Brilliant.
it's the perspective of invest also at the end of the day.
Yeah. And at the end of it, I would again, it's always personal finance, right? So just doing great, it doesn't mean that no passive is going to be, there is no sarva roga nivarani in investment. It's to be personal. It has to be, which is why it is better to go to a doctor than, to self-medicate. So, I keep it at this for this particular session. And thank you very, very much, Vardhini, for taking time out. I'm going to take a lot more of your time now, right? We probably do a series or something like that. We'll some more podcasts over the next few weeks. So wonderful to have you over. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate. And for viewers, listeners, I keep trying my best to keep it as regular as possible. Now with Vardhini, I'm hoping to kind of give me that push so that at least once in a fortnight we'll have something coming up. Notwithstanding, we'll try and put that up as soon as possible. Thank you very, very much once again. See you soon.
Sure. Thank you so much. Bye.
So that was today's episode. Thank you very, very much for listening in. We hope to see you soon. This podcast is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that the podcasters of this material are not engaged in rendering professional services through this program. If the listener requires personal assistance or advice, a competent professional should be consulted. The podcasters specifically disclaim any responsibility for any loss, liability, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence, directly or indirectly, of the use of any of the contents. The contents are general information that is intended to, but not guaranteed to be correct or updated. The information is not presented as a source of investment, insurance, or legal advice. You should not rely on the statements or representations made in this podcast or by any externally referenced sources. If you need investment or tax advice upon which you intend to rely in the course of your financial and business affairs, please consult a competent, independent, registered financial advisor. The content should not be taken as financial advice or as an offer to buy or sell securities, insurance, funds, or any financial products. It should not be taken as an endorsement, recommendation of any particular company or individual, and no responsibility can be taken for inaccuracies, omissions, or errors. The information presented is not to be considered as investment advice. The podcasters do not assume any responsibility for actions or non-actions taken by people who have listened to this program, and no one shall be entitled to claim for detrimental reliance or non-reliance upon any information provided or expressed herein. Your use of any information provided herein does not constitute any type of contractual relationship between yourselves and providers of such information. The podcasters hereby disclaim all responsibility and liability for all use of any information in this program.